Hello everyone, today I will take you into one of the strangest and most unsettling mysteries in Scotland. A mystery that has baffled locals, scientists, dog owners, and paranormal researchers for decades. This is the story of the Overtoun Bridge, a beautiful yet ominous stone bridge in Dumbarton, where countless dogs have mysteriously leapt to their deaths. At first glance, it looks like any other bridge, a peaceful place surrounded by trees and flowing water, but beneath that calm surface lies an unexplained phenomenon that has left families heartbroken and investigators searching for answers. Why do dogs keep jumping from this bridge? Is there a logical explanation hidden in nature, or is there something more sinister at work? Something beyond human comprehension? As we journey deeper into this story, prepare yourself for twists, chilling accounts, and questions that may never be fully answered. The Overtoun Bridge was built in 1895, during a time when architecture was as much about beauty as it was about function. Made of sturdy stone and arching gracefully over a small stream, the bridge connected the land around the Overtoun House, a 19th-century mansion that itself has an air of mystery. To locals, the mansion and its surroundings had always carried an otherworldly feeling, a sense of strangeness that couldn't be explained in simple terms. Stories of hauntings, whispers of shadows, and eerie sensations were already attached to the land long before the mystery of the dogs began. But the real enigma, the one that gained international attention, started in the mid-20th century. Reports began to circulate that dogs were leaping from the same side of the bridge, almost always at the exact same spot, plunging into the rocky stream below. Many of these jumps were fatal, while others left the animals severely injured. What made this even stranger was that the dogs were not forced or thrown. They leapt willingly, as if something unseen was luring them off the edge. Witnesses described it as sudden and shocking. One moment the dog was happily trotting along, the next it bolted and leapt to its death without hesitation. Over the years, estimates suggest that more than 600 dogs may have jumped, with dozens dying instantly on impact. Imagine the horror of the owners. A family might visit the bridge on a sunny day, their beloved pet running ahead with excitement, only to watch helplessly as their companion suddenly dashes and leaps from the bridge. These were not isolated events. The pattern repeated again and again, enough to gain a reputation that spread beyond Dumbarton. Soon, the Overtoun Bridge was being called the Dog Suicide Bridge, a name that carries with it both sadness and terror. But the question remained, why? Why did dogs, known for their keen senses and instinct for self-preservation, act in such a suicidal manner at this specific spot? At first, skeptics claimed it was pure coincidence, that perhaps a few tragic incidents were exaggerated into a legend. But as the reports piled up, the phenomenon could no longer be dismissed so easily. Families had no reason to invent such horrifying stories, and the sheer number of cases pointed to something unusual. Researchers began to examine the area, trying to find rational explanations. One of the first theories suggested that dogs were being lured by scents, perhaps from animals living in the foliage below. Dogs, after all, have powerful noses and can pick up on scents undetectable to humans. Some scientists pointed to the presence of mink in the area, whose musky odor might drive dogs, especially certain breeds like collies and retrievers, into a frenzy. If the smell came from directly beneath the bridge, perhaps the animals were jumping in an attempt to reach it. But even this theory failed to explain everything. Why would the jumps occur at the same spot, on the same side, and with such alarming consistency? Why were dogs unaffected on other bridges in similar environments? As science struggled to provide answers, paranormal theories began to take hold. Locals whispered that the Overtoun Bridge was cursed, or that it sat on a thin place, where the boundary between the living world and the spirit world is fragile. In Celtic belief, thin places are locations where one can almost touch the supernatural, where energies bleed through from beyond. Some claimed that dogs, with their heightened senses, were able to perceive things humans could not, perhaps ghostly presences or dark energies lingering near the bridge. If the land itself was marked by tragedy or spiritual unrest, could it be influencing the minds of these animals? Adding to this eerie reputation is the story of Overtoun House itself. Over the years, The mansion had its share of ghost stories, with people reporting strange apparitions, cold spots, and feelings of being watched. Some visitors claimed to hear whispers or footsteps in empty rooms. To the superstitious, it seemed fitting that the bridge, which led toward the house, might be a focal point for something unnatural. Could the dogs be sensing spirits that humans could not see, and in their confusion or panic, leaping toward or away from them? One of the most chilling aspects of this mystery is how consistent the incidents are. Owners often describe how their dogs behaved perfectly normally before suddenly acting possessed, charging toward the edge as if compelled by an invisible force. These were not timid or careless animals. They were beloved pets, whelped, trained and loved. It is almost as if something called to them in those final moments. Some witnesses even spoke of their dogs pausing briefly, ears raised, before making the fatal leap, as though listening to a voice only they could hear. Skeptics argue that the idea of ghosts luring dogs is absurd, and they continue to search for more practical explanations. Perhaps it is the angle of the bridge, the way its parapets conceal the drop until it is too late. Perhaps the combination of scents, the echoing sound of the stream below, and the positioning of the trees create a perfect storm of sensory confusion for dogs. But none of these theories fully satisfies the haunting question: why only here and why so many? The bridge has now become a place of both fascination and dread. Tourists visit to see the infamous spot, while locals sometimes avoid it, especially with their pets. Signs have even been put up to warn dog owners to keep their animals on a leash when crossing. Yet despite the warnings, the incidents have continued. The bridge, it seems, has a will of its own. One of the darkest chapters in the story of Overtoun Bridge came in 1994, when a man named Kevin Moy threw his infant son from the bridge, claiming that the child was the Antichrist. This horrifying act shocked the nation and forever tied the bridge not only to the deaths of animals, but to the loss of human life. Some say this tragedy proved that the bridge holds a sinister energy, influencing minds toward madness. Others argue it was the result of Moy's mental illness. But for many, the chilling connection only deepened the mystery. The Overtoun Bridge remains a puzzle wrapped in sorrow, a place where logic and legend collide. Scientists continue to study it, yet the paranormal explanations remain just as strong in the minds of many. Whether it is the scent of mink, an optical illusion, or a supernatural force, one truth is undeniable: something about that bridge is not normal. As we move deeper into this story, we will explore more eyewitness accounts, dive into scientific studies, and uncover local folklore that stretches back generations. Is there a hidden history tied to this land? Are there darker secrets that explain why the bridge holds such a grip on the living? Or is it possible that we are confronting something beyond the realm of reason, a mystery that will never yield to human understanding? The answers, if they exist, may lie in the shadows of the Overtoun Bridge. The deeper one looks into the story of the Overtoun Bridge, the more chilling the accounts become. Dog owners who had never heard of the legend before visiting the bridge reported the same strange behavior in their pets. A dog that had never once pulled hard on a leash might suddenly lunge forward with all its strength, dragging its owner toward the fatal spot. Some described it as though the dog had been possessed for a few seconds, completely ignoring commands and their own safety. And then, in an instant, the animal was gone. It is this consistency, this eerie similarity across stories, that makes the mystery so enduring. One owner told of his collie Bonnie, who had never once acted disobediently in her life. She was calm, steady, and gentle. On a visit to Overtoun, she suddenly bolted toward the edge of the bridge, leaping before the man could even react. Miraculously, Bonnie survived, but the man described her as dazed and shaken, as if she had no idea what had just happened. She lived, but many others were not so fortunate. When stories like these began to spread in the press, scientists felt pressured to investigate further. Dr. David Sands, an animal psychologist, conducted studies at the site. He examined the structure of the bridge, the positioning of its stones, the height of the parapets, and the natural environment around it. He also studied dog breeds most commonly affected. His conclusion leaned toward the idea of scent, specifically the presence of mink. He conducted experiments by exposing dogs to the scent of mink, squirrels, and other animals, and found that many dogs, especially hunting breeds, reacted intensely to the smell of mink. To him, this could explain the sudden lunges and leaps, as the dogs might be overcome by instinct to chase. But while this theory was welcomed by some, others remained unconvinced. If the smell of mink was enough to explain the phenomenon, why were similar incidents not reported on other bridges in Scotland where mink were present? Why did the leaps occur with such chilling precision in one spot? And why had no one ever actually seen a dog leap at visible prey below? The mystery remained, and the legend of the dog suicide bridge continued to grow. Locals often spoke of something darker than mere scent. The town of Dumbarton has a long history steeped in Celtic folklore, where spirits and otherworldly beings are believed to walk the land. To some, Overtoun Bridge sits on a thin place where the veil between worlds is weaker. Stories circulated that dogs, with their ability to sense energies beyond human perception, were reacting not to animals but to spirits. Perhaps they were seeing something at the edge of the bridge, something that called to them, something they could not resist. Some even claimed that the spirit of the land itself was restless. There were whispers of tragedies long before the dog deaths began, of sorrowful events tied to Overtoun House and its surroundings. One legend suggests that Lady Overtoun, who lived in the mansion during the late 19th century, never left after her death. Her presence was said to linger, heavy and watchful, and dogs, being sensitive creatures, might be reacting to a restless spirit. Whether protective or malevolent, her influence was said to haunt the grounds. Tourists who came to see the bridge often reported feeling unsettled themselves. Some spoke of sudden chills, even on warm days, or of a strange heaviness in the air. Others described the eerie silence that sometimes falls over the bridge, as though the world itself pauses. And then there were the reports of whispers, soft voices carried on the wind, indecipherable yet distinctly human. These sensations only added fuel to the idea that Overtoun Bridge was more than stone and mortar. It was a place of energy, a crossroads between life and death. The incident with Kevin Moy in 1994, when he threw his infant son from the bridge, deepened the bridge's terrifying reputation. He claimed that his child was possessed by evil and that the bridge was a place of power. Though his actions were undeniably the result of mental illness, many could not ignore the connection. To them, the bridge did not only call to dogs, but to unstable human minds as well, amplifying darkness within. It became a symbol of tragedy, where love and innocence could be shattered in an instant. Yet not all stories of the bridge are filled with death. Some dogs that leapt miraculously survived, like Bonnie. Their survival often left owners with haunting questions. Why had their pets done this? What had they seen or sensed that humans could not? In a few cases, dogs that survived showed signs of hesitation when brought back to the area, refusing to cross the bridge again, pulling away from the fatal spot with fear in their eyes. It was as though they remembered something terrifying that they could not explain. The police, too, investigated the site over the years, but they always leaned on natural explanations. They warned dog owners to keep their pets on a leash, to be cautious when crossing. And yet, even with such warnings, the incidents never stopped completely. To this day, dog owners who live in Dumbarton often avoid the bridge altogether, choosing longer routes to keep their pets safe. The fear is not superstition. It is rooted in years of tragedy. As decades passed, the bridge became a subject of documentaries, newspaper articles, and countless debates online. Paranormal investigators brought cameras and recorders to the site, hoping to capture evidence of spiritual activity. Some claimed to record strange voices or anomalies, while others declared the site to be heavy with negative energy. Skeptics dismissed these findings as imagination or interference, but the divide between science and belief only made the mystery more intriguing. The Overtoun Bridge has become a symbol of how humans grapple with the unknown. On one side are those who demand rational explanations, who insist that every mystery has a logical answer, even if it eludes us for now. On the other side are those who accept that some places carry energies we cannot measure, that the world is wider and stranger than science admits. The bridge stands at the center of this conflict. It's silent stones watching as dogs continue to leap, as humans continue to argue, and as grief continues to linger. The story of the Overtoun Bridge is not simply about dogs. It is about our own fear of what we cannot control. It is about the sorrow of losing a companion in a way that feels senseless, and the desperate need to find meaning in tragedy. Whether one believes in spirits or in science, the mystery forces us to confront the limits of our understanding. Why do the dogs leap? What drives them in those final moments? Perhaps the answer lies in something as simple as instinct, or perhaps it lies in realms beyond our own. What makes this mystery so haunting is that it remains unsolved. There is no definitive answer, no single explanation that ties every story together, and maybe that is what makes the Overtoun Bridge endure in our imaginations. It is not just a bridge of stone, it is a bridge of questions, a reminder that the world still holds secrets that we cannot explain. So the next time you walk across a bridge, think of Overtoun. Think of the countless paws that touched its stones, the families who left with heartbreak, and the whispers of legends that linger in the air. And remember that somewhere in Dumbarton, there is a bridge where dogs leap into the unknown, and where the truth remains just out of reach, waiting in the shadows.